were like a bullet from a gun, thought you were invincible. But you're not the only one racing through life, leaving safety behind. But you ain't the king of the road, you're just out of your mind. Distracted on your phone, not a care in the world. Blinded by the screen like your vision's been unfurled. You think you're so important, can't leave it all alone. But you're putting lives at stake, just hang up that damn phone. Highway havoc, I've had enough. It's time to wake up, get your act together, tough. Aggressive drivers, weaving in and out. This ain't no video game. This is what it's about.
It is Wednesday, and that intro, I did not have a good transition into. Anyway, I was thinking I could rock out somehow, but it's not happening. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. My name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a police officer with the Toronto Police Service. I talk about traffic safety, traffic law, and police stuff every single day, and my goal is to help you get answers to the questions you have, because they're not always easy to find. And even if you find stuff, how do you know if it's accurate? Mind you, a lot of people hear what I have to say and go, that's not true. Oddly enough, it is true. Otherwise, I wouldn't say it to you. But that's another story. If you are watching, you're probably on one of these platforms because they're awesome. And regardless of which one you're using to connect with us, we're glad that you're here. Now, if you are having problems, if we can't see your questions, if things just aren't working the way they are supposed to, jump over to YouTube. YouTube.TrafficCop.ca is awesome in every way. And also follow us everywhere. If you're on TikTok, hit those buttons and make it rain the hearts, and then share it with your friends, because endorsing us really helps people find us. It's an algorithm thing. If you are on TikTok, awesome. Most of the time the integration works. You give a shout out, let us know where you're from, where you're tuning in, where you're seeing us, like where you are physically in the world. I will say that we are in Ontario, and most of the stuff we talk about is Ontario based, but that's not to say we can't talk about stuff from other places, because a lot of it's just common sense. And then there's very specific rules that are less common sense and more specific to the geographical location you're in. So please let us know when you're asking where you're at. We talked about YouTube. We're on Twitch, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Kick, and X. And X does allow you to ask questions. Not many people realize, because for years and years it didn't work. Now it does. So if you've got a question on X, make sure inside the chat, not making comments to the actual post, but making a comment within the chat of the stream in X. And we have tons of people who join us on X, and we love it. It's awesome. If you're watching, but you can't stick around, and you wish there were a way that you could connect and listen afterwards to catch up what you missed, well, obviously you can go to YouTube and watch all of the replays for the hundreds of episodes that we put out. I think this is episode 60 or 61 for this year. That's at least 60 hours, and based on yesterday being 2 hours, it's more than 60 hours of content that we produced. But if you want to listen to it while you're driving and not break the law or burn unnecessary data, I would suggest going to Apple Podcasts, iHeart Podcasts, listen on Spotify. There's a ton of different places that you can catch this in the after show, reproduced, uploaded for your convenience. You can synchronize it when you're on Wi-Fi and listen to it without costing you money. And it is a money thing, isn't it? Yeah. Let's get into stuff and things, because we've got people waiting in the chat room. This really is an interactive show. And I got to call out, well, they won't be here to comment, but yesterday, oh no, TikTok's not LinkedIn. I said, okay, well, TikTok isn't LinkedIn because they're different platforms, but I mean the link isn't working. Hang on a second. Before I get into the funny story that I want to share with you, I'm going to try and fix stuff. I'm launching Chrome. And I'm going to try and fix this. Chat. There we go. I cannot forecast when things will work or not work. And frankly, it's really annoying when it doesn't work, but I got you. We're going to figure it out. Relay on, relay off, relay on. I'm just literally clicking a box on a page that will hopefully kickstart things. Because I see Buster Billy and Polly B and Dan and Is it A or A? There's one character for your name. I don't know. We'll see if things start populating. And I see Chase is back. So we are going to do, what is this? Sean Chen says, Ontario alert ready to, 12:55, we're going to have an alert ready test. Very cool. Thanks to Sean Chen, who is, of course, a good friend of the show. My story, what was my story? At the end of the show yesterday, somebody said, nobody wants to see what you're talking about. They don't care about what you have to say. Copper. I'm adding copper because I think it adds to the drama. But basically they were saying that people don't want to see this show, which I think is odd because this show is all about you. It's a show that answers your questions. If you don't ask questions, we got nothing to talk about except donuts. I don't really like donuts, but I will endure the occasional donut just for, come on, why isn't the integration working still? Chase, you're well, actually, no, let me scroll on to the bottom. Is it working? It is working. I see a message. Prab came through. Okay. And why? Okay, it's working. Good. Oh, it stinks when it doesn't work. I love the fact that we've come a long way technologically speaking. We used to do this all on a phone. I had a phone and I had multiple cameras and I would just be inside of TikTok. We don't actually use the TikTok app anymore. This is going through an RTMP portal, and it's made possible by a product called Restream, which is stellar. It allows us to broadcast on all these different platforms at the same time and then do great stuff like this, where I press a button and I see greetings and salutations from Akela Draconis, which we could never do any other way. It's just really awesome. So greetings and salutations, my friend. I don't like circles. Oh, yeah, that's funny. Okay, this is a joke, and we'll keep that for later. Do I share it with you now? Okay, I'll share it now. Akela says, I don't like circles. They seem so pointless to me. I love it. Okay, but he's sent a quote for later. We'll save that to the end. Tian says, good morning, everyone. Chase says, good morning, all. Pete B says, morning, everybody. We got a question that was actually, I think that was Chase. Okay, I don't know if this is for Chase or somebody else, but the question is, because Chase often helps out, my dad doesn't believe me and needs to hear it from the man himself. Are you allowed to use your phone in a drive-through? I will screen grab this. I can actually make this a deliverable, and here's where it goes. Hi, Dad. How you doing? Chase is right. You can use your cell phone in a drive-through. And you know why? It's not on the road. You're on private property, and that law doesn't apply there. So it's less safe than not using it in a drive-through, but you can use it in the drive-through. So point for Chase. That's fun. I like doing fun stuff. This whole thing is fun. Who'd have thunk I would ever be the guy sitting here talking to you on the internet? Wasn't me. I never thought that would happen, but I'm glad that I'm here. I'm glad I'm here to help. Okay. Ryan Pinn says, hello, Jonathan. Teaching in class today and students are on a break. Hope all is well. I'm doing well, my friend. Ryan Pinn is a driving instructor in Nova Scotia, a man of the world, a man who knows how to blow a trumpet because he's also, a military guy. Brandon says, good morning, Sean, and all the great people. Only here for a short time as it is new Mustang Day. Get out of town. What'd you get? I mean, it's new Mustang Day because they're releasing it, or I'm assuming you bought a new Mustang and thus you are getting your new Mustang. That's exciting news. I like it. I like it a lot. What'd you get? 6-cylinder, 8-cylinder? Do they make an 8-cylinder? I don't know. Turbo? Do they have a turbo? I had a Mustang. I had a 3.8-liter V6. Less cool than it could have been. And I remember being made fun of when I was cruising on Yonge Street once, and a young lady in an 8-cylinder pulled up and said, did you borrow your mom's car? Things have changed now. I think the 4-cylinders, they have like ridiculous horsepower, but who needs horsepower? We can't break the law. Can't go fast. Chase is coming in from Clinton, Ontario. I don't even know where Clinton, Ontario is, but I'm glad that you're representing. And of course, Sean Chen, who we mentioned earlier, says hi. We got here, we got Stephen Bell, who says, hi, good morning, Sean. Today is my birthday. Happy birthday, Stephen. I need a button to do the birthday song. I don't have that, so we'll just give you a Chewbacca birthday greeting. I don't know if you speak Chewbaccanese, but what language does Chewbacca speak? I don't actually know. I've never thought about it until just now. That was happy birthday. I have it on good authority, and then, of course, the Ewoks birthday greetings, too. Prob wants to know, he says, hi, officer. I'm moving to Ontario for my uni from Manitoba. Do I need to change my license and insurance? Yes, you do. In Ontario, you become a resident when you're a student here, and you have 30 days to change your license, 60 days to change your vehicle permit. It's a thing. So you do have to do that. Other provinces, like if you went to university in Quebec, you don't have to change it. They have different rules. Here you do. You're a resident, you got to change it. Okay. Brandon says, when driving a muscle car on the streets, people always want to race some, get aggressive when I don't entertain it. Can I report them? So they want to race you, and they get aggressive when you don't race them back. I think that's just smile-worthy. But what kind of aggressive are we talking about? I mean, here's the thing: it's not worth it's not worth a call to the police, because by the time we would get there, it's over. If you have a dash cam, which I think every single driver should have, despite some lawyer on the internet saying it's a bad thing, if you're not breaking the law, it's a good thing. If you are someone who's breaking the law, it might be evidence of you breaking the law. So I'll give you that. From the lawyer's perspective, her clients are apparently bad people who break the law. That's bad, because we'll seize that potentially, and the evidence might make you more involved or more at fault than you once thought. But in terms of defending and catching information, it's really, really good. And I wish all vehicles had what Teslas have, which is the 360 camera functionality. It's awesome, truly awesome. Yeah. I think Tyler wants to see the car. I don't have pictures. Send me pictures. If you send me on Instagram a picture, I'll put it up on screen. Too old morning from Paul. I don't know if I understand that. We have Axlam or Axlaam who says, can I drive a car if I have a G1? Well, if you have a G1, you should know exactly what the rules are surrounding your G1 that you studied for, right? The deal is that you can drive a car that is covered under the G-Class license whilst being supervised by a qualified G-Class driver who's sitting in the passenger seat. No one else can be in the front row, just you and the supervisor. There are, of course, restrictions. Midnight and 5 a.m. you cannot drive. You cease to be a learner during those times, not allowed. The person supervising you must be sober. They have to have less than 0.05 BAC, which means 0 to 0.049 BAC. Yeah, and you can't be alone, obviously, because you need the driver with 4 years experience. And it's 4 years experience from the time they got their G2. So if they have 2 years as a G2 and 2 years as a G, the combination there and is 4 years. But they should be looking for the 4 dots that are vertically oriented to the left of the little picture in the bottom right-hand corner of your driver's license. Not you, the G1, but for them. If they don't have that, they probably don't have the qualifications to supervise you, at which point you'd be eligible for a ticket for Drive G1 or G1 Drive Unaccompanied. It's going to be $110, which doesn't sound so bad, except for the fact that you're going to get a 30-day license suspension on the first time, a 90-day on the second time, and on the third time, you're going to get kicked out of the graduated licensing program and, start all over again and lose all money and time. So if you have to wait 8 months because you took a course or 12 months because you didn't, well, that starts at 0 again. So that kind of sucks. Also, what else? There's an also. What's the also? Oh, yeah, you can't drive on the highway. Can't drive on highways that have speed limits over 80 and above. Chase, based on my response says, Chase 1, Dad 0. That's good. But who would question you, Chase? I mean, your dad knew. Why would he? He should not question you. You know too much. Will it ever be illegal or / enforced that people need to drive the speed marked on the road? Well, they don't mark it on the road. We mark it on signs, but you're absolutely right. It is enforced. It is illegal. So both of those things are happening, even though it may appear not to be happening. Why? Because it's such a rampant problem. Everyone seems to be speeding, except me and probably you. But everybody else seems to be going way, way, way too fast. Now, we do enforce the speed. We enforce the speed a lot. It's our number one ticket issued. And we had 200,000 tickets roughly last year. So that's the vast majority of them are speeding. So we are enforcing it, but we can't be everywhere all the time. You go fishing, you don't catch all the fish. You catch them one at a time, unless you're using a net. I would like to see a day when we have automated enforcement take care of the everybody driving situation. Other countries do it. It works. It slows people down. It's a good thing. We should do it too. But oddly enough, it's not a popular thing. People get upset when they're being held accountable. They whine and complain and get upset. I don't much care about the people who whine and complain. I think they should all be held accountable. Don't speed. You won't get a ticket. But anyway. Yeah. Hello, she Seguin. Can you drive with earbuds in? Yes, you can. In Ontario. Other provinces have different rules. In the province of Ontario, you can drive with one or both ears covered. Hearing is not actually a requirement under the law, although it is a bonus. It's nice to hear the screeching tire. Well, it's not nice to hear the screeching tires, but it is beneficial. It's early warning that you might have the impending doom of impact to deal with. And I say that knowing that when you actually brace for impact, you end up getting more injured. One of the reasons that impaired drivers tend to be the least injured in collisions is because they're so chill. Just floppy, and they don't get as hurt as the people they end up killing. Moving along. All right. Just a reminder, if you don't already follow us, please do, because that's how it works. If you follow us, you'll get updates and, talk to us more and hear from us on the regular. But if you don't follow us, you won't. And we have 3,300 roughly on YouTube that follow us, but we have 40,000 views, a month type thing. So we know that there's more people watching than follow us. So please follow us and follow us everywhere. You can follow me. You can follow the service. You can follow TrafficCop.ca. Lots of great information there and links to all of our socials. Okay. Further information, or need to stay out of the passing lane if they're being passed. We talked about this a lot. I talk about it a lot anyway, but if someone is speeding, they shouldn't be on the road. They should lose their license. They should have all sorts of, bad things in terms of consequences rain down on them. But let's see here. We have folks who are not speeding, but they're going slower than the speeders. So should they be in the left lane? No, they shouldn't. They shouldn't, not because they're doing something wrong. They shouldn't because the people doing something wrong are making it unsafe for everybody when they pass them on the right. So do the right thing and stay to the right if you're not actively passing. And for the people speeding, I wag my finger at you. I can't stop you anymore because I'm sitting in front of a camera instead of going out and actually enforcing rules. And people go, why aren't you out there making a change? Well, actually, I'm talking to way more people here than I'd ever be talking to, stopping one car at a time. So I'm actually, I think, doing far more good here, despite some people on TikTok and the internet not being happy about it. All right. Tom says, not stopping at a stop sign at a shopping mall, not illegal, private property, right? Yes, it's not illegal. It's not enforceable unless you happen to be, you said shopping mall. So very specifically, the shopping mall, it's not prohibited there. It's not enforceable there. You could get trespassed for doing it. Like security could say, you're not allowed to be here anymore because you broke the rules here. And if you run a stop sign, we ask you to leave. And if you don't leave, we're going to call the police and you're going to be trespassed. That's the thing. They can't stop you legally. Like in terms of a vehicle stop, there's no lights and sirens benefit for security, but they certainly can record your information and start the process for trespass. But if you're on a TTC lot, if you're on a Go Transit lot, they have acts that deal with their property, and they could issue you tickets. But at the end of the day, don't run stop signs. It's not a good thing. Let's see here. When you stop someone for a stunt driving ticket for speeding, do you have to give a speeding one? Well, speeding is part of the offense. So I would lay a charge for speeding, and I would lay a charge for stunt. And if there was anything else, I would also lay that. Like if you forgot your license, if you weren't wearing your seatbelt, if you were, I would charge you for absolutely everything that you did. Once we start with stunt, why leave out details? Do I have to lay the speeding? I guess I don't have to, but it would be appropriate to lay everything. Would I lose points if I don't? No. But I like to document and make a complete case. My buddy Killer Bee Tactical, what's going on, brother? He says, new Mustang Day. It is a good day. How are the bees? Killer Bee Tactical is a now retired police officer, was a federal police officer. He keeps bees. He talks about tactical stuff and self-defense. You should follow him if you don't already do. Just an all-around good guy. In Kentucky, I have to come visit you. We've been talking about it for a long time, or it was a long time ago that we talked about it, and I haven't made it over yet. I think a trip to Kentucky is in my future. All right. We got Akela responding. Please, reminding everyone to please put the letter Q in front of your question so I know it's a question and not dialogue. You see, Akela didn't put a letter Q in front because he's not talking to me. He's answering a question amongst y'all in the chat because he can do that. He's here a lot. He knows stuff and things. What do we got here? Can I walk around with a paintball gun in my bag in public? Well, if you're not brandishing, if you're not showing people something that resembles a firearm, transporting your paintball gun isn't against the law. Granted, assuming it's not a firearm, if it doesn't have a muzzle velocity over 500 feet per second, which at that point it becomes a firearm. It's different rules for transportation. But a paintball gun is not prohibited. If you pull it out and start using it, you're going to get arrested. That's not okay. That's not okay. But that's a different story. I don't think we've talked about paintball guns ever before on this channel. Yeah, and the fact is, if you scare people, there's charges just for scaring people. Like if they think it's a firearm, even though it's not, bad things happen. All right. Is it Prabjot? I don't know if I got your pronunciation. I probably didn't. We talked about this. Okay, you moved over from TikTok onto YouTube, so we already covered your question and answer. Kai wants to know about violence with tow truck stuff. I don't know. I'm not involved with those investigations. I'm about to go to work at 2:30. Jason says they're going to work at 2:30. Hopefully that's not 230 kilometers an hour. Hopefully you're talking about going to work at 2:30 in the afternoon. And at which point I don't understand the context of your statement. What is the penalty for a modified exhaust? Well, modifying it doesn't necessarily make it illegal, but if it's creating unnecessary noise or is no longer doing what it was designed to do and not meeting the requirements under the Ontario law for exhaust systems, if your muffler isn't muffling, you could be looking at an improper muffler or exhaust charge of $110. You could be looking at having no muffler if one doesn't exist anymore, which would be $110. You could be looking at additionally a unnecessary noise charge of $110. Depending on what you've done, you might be looking at charges that are in the $800 range. It's either $600 or $800 range if you're modifying stuff for emissions. Like if you're messing around with things that were once covered under the Environmental Protection Act and are now wrapped up in the Highway Traffic Act, it's going to get really expensive really fast. Yeah. Chase says, new Stangs are 4-cylinder turbos or 8-cylinder. I think everything's a turbo now. I have a 6-cylinder twin turbo. Not Mustang, but everything's like there's fewer naturally aspirated engines out there, which is sad. It makes me sad. I like simple vehicles over ones with turbo stuff. I mean, they sound cool, but yeah. Actually, I liked my 8-cylinder. I went from I had an F-150 that was a twin turbo, EcoBoost. Then I went to an 8-cylinder, and the 8-cylinder sounded so much better to me. I like the little whine when it winds up, but we're not talking about crazy stuff. We're just a little bit. Chase wishes Stephen a happy birthday. Okay, then we got, what is this? Oh, somebody's talking about politics. I don't talk about politics. Lots of birthday messages. Oh, I don't know how I didn't think of this. Akela, of course, knows what Wookiees speak. Swiruk. Very good. Is there a dictionary for this? Can we actually find out what happy birthday is in Sriwook? And then would you be so kind as to record yourself saying it and let us know? Let's see here. 519 Aiden says, not this guy again. And if you're talking about moi, then I invite you to scroll on, because if you don't want to be here, you don't have to be here. But I am here, and I will continue to be here because I'm here for everybody but you. I mean that with love. I'm here to answer questions. But if you've got all the answers, which is what most people think they have, scroll on. Let's see here. This week is Operation Road Check. That's from Smiley. I don't know what Operation Road Check is, so enlighten us, please. Question from Chase. If you intentionally block or remove your plate to avoid 407 charges, isn't that a criminal fraud on top of the HTA charge? I don't think. I mean, I could see how potentially it would qualify, but I don't think it's gone that route. There's a specific charge for obscuring your plate for the purposes of avoiding tolls. I don't think I don't know if anyone's ever gone by way of criminal intent, and maybe because the cost threshold, like it's not fraud over, it's fraud under. Is it defrauding? No, because fraud in particular has to be that. Okay, so it could be a theft, maybe theft of service, but fraud means that you are stealing from someone in such a way that they think that they're not being robbed, thieved. Basically, it means there's trickery involved, right? Fraud is I'm getting someone to give me something under false pretenses. That's not the exact verbatim description, but yeah, if you have no plate, there's no fraud. It's very specifically theft of service. But yeah, I've never gone there. Never gone there. Now I want to find out. Josh, the unofficial producer, says, good morning, everybody. How you doing, Josh? Josh is, I believe, in Edmonton. Did I remember correctly? I think it's Edmonton. Dad joke, we'll save for later from Michaela. Joey says, what's the speed on the 401? I'm so confused. Should I follow the traffic's speed? So this is the question of posted speed limits, the actual law telling you how fast to go, and what everybody else is doing, which is very often is breaking the law. Are you required to break the law because they're breaking the law, going with the flow of traffic? And the answer is no. There's no law requiring you nor absolving you from the responsibility of going the speed limit as a maximum, not a starting point, an actual maximum. That's why it's called a limit. Yeah, no. The concept of go with the flow is taught for people who are learning to drive to get up to the speed of traffic to enter and merge. But of course, this is the assumption that everybody else is also going up until and no more than the posted speed limit. There's no get out of jail or get off a ticket because, well, everybody else was going fast, so I felt I had to do it. No, it doesn't work. I will charge somebody, and I'll charge as many people as I can when you're speeding. That's just how it works. I catch you speeding, you get a ticket. There's none of this, what everybody else was doing it, so I'm safe. So there should be no confusion. The speed limit is a speed limit regardless of what road you're on. Butterfly Eyes 4U1 says, good morning, everybody from Canada. Good morning to you. Where are you from? Unless you're just from Canada who's saying everybody else who's also from Canada but ignoring everybody else. One way or another, somebody's being left out of your message. So where are you from? Let's see here. Can I do 130 in the fast lane? I'm sure you're capable of it. You're not doing it legally if you're doing it. And you'd be in the left lane, which means I'd be looking for you for a good speeding tip. Mind you, I'm not on the road, but my colleagues are looking there. And we're looking everywhere. And I look forward to the day when automation takes care of it. Just saying. What is this? Aussie man says, someone always looks at them when they're, no, you can't call the police for someone looking at you. That's a silly question. And Butterfly continues with, good morning, everyone from Canada, Toronto. Josh reminds everyone to please put a letter Q before your question to ensure that we know it's a question as opposed to dialogue amongst yourselves. How many questions in the M1 test? I don't know, actually. I think the G1 is 20 or 25 questions about signs and 20 or 25 questions about rules of the road. I assume it's somewhere similar to the M1, but I don't know. That's not my department. Okay. People want to know about Drake's beef. I don't know. Is it chicken or beef? I have no idea. I'm not following that. Not my department. And I say not my department because, as a reminder, my name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a police officer with the Toronto Police Service, but I work at Traffic Services, which is a citywide traffic unit, and we handle anything that rolls, anything at all that's a vehicle. And we deal with the reconstruction of collisions. We deal with the enforcement of the HTA, the Highway Traffic Act. We deal with the enforcement of the laws surrounding stuff on the road. So we also deal with pedestrian stuff and, all the not so great things that happen because we deal with a lot of death and destruction, which is sad. And people could avoid that by not breaking the law. Now, something I totally and completely neglected to do at the beginning of the show was discuss Vision Zero enforcement team. I don't know how I did it, but I managed to do it. And since I'm scrolling through the magic of Twitter, just a reminder that if you're running with your winter tires, you should probably be changing those. Winter tires do not work well in summer months. They're not designed for temperatures over 7 degrees Celsius. And your stopping distances will be longer, especially in wet weather. They just don't function as well. They're not designed for roads that are warm. So you should get them changed. And a lot of people, I've met people who are running winter tires that they've had on since the pandemic. Not good. So tires are a real thing. Get them checked out. Get them checked out by somebody you trust, because some people you ask, they'll say, oh, they're garbage, you got to get new ones. And others will test them and tell you actually what's the real deal. So find someone that you trust. Now, in terms of Vision Zero enforcement team that I feel so bad for having neglected, we are talking about the folks that go out and change driver behavior one ticket at a time. They do it by going to different areas of the city every single day, and they're focused on the big four. They are looking for people who choose to speed, drive aggressively, drive distracted, drive impaired. They are trying to make the roads safer. And they do that with what I call education through enforcement. What I do is education through social media. But enforcement has a different kind of very personalized touch because your name is on the piece of paper that's issued and it affects your insurance and everything else surrounding your ability to drive. If you don't want tickets, don't break the law. It's simple. If you have questions about what the laws are so you don't break them, that's what I'm here for. In any case, they're in 12 Division and where else are they today? 51 Division. They're in Weston, Mount Dennis, Rockcliffe, Smythe, St. Jamestown, Cabbagetown, Riverdale, Church and Young neighborhoods where real people live, work, and play and deserve to be safe. So, yeah, don't want to meet them. Don't break the law. Apparently, there's a liar episode that everyone says, I should just play that. I think someone would be offended. Mind you, people are offended by just being told not to break the law. So, you can't win, really. All right, let's scroll back and see where we left off. I will be speaking about employment. Well, it's 10:30. Do we just okay, it's 10:30, so we're just going to do the employment thing. And I am going to play a 1-minute video while we prepare. Why? Because I can. And I love this video. It is a recruiting video for the Toronto Police Service. So we're biased. We're trying to get people to come here. But I love this video. Check it out.
Your future career starts with a vision. A vision of opportunities ahead, where you can see a path to a noble career, serving the city of Toronto. Where do you see yourself? Toronto Police Service. Apply today.
I mean, doesn't that make you want to go out and join? I would join again. I love that video. We're talking to people all the time about becoming a police officer and becoming a member of the service, not just as a police officer, parking enforcement, special constable, civilian roles. Like, there's so many ways to support your city, your community. This is the best one, in my opinion. I mean, you may be into all sorts of things, but this is awesome and rewarding, and it also pays well. I mean, there's good things that you can take care of a family, but it's the best place to be. Okay, oh, hey, look at that, they put it on the website. This is the website right here. It is www.tps.ca/careers. If you go here, you can find out more about becoming a police constable, special constable, parking enforcement officer, communications operator, the magical men and women who answer the telephone when you're in need, and then transfer that call to a dispatcher who then sends police to help you. It's a really important job that doesn't get the recognition it deserves. I started as an auxiliary volunteer. It's a great way to volunteer and contribute to your community. So consider that, regardless if you're in Toronto or somewhere else, great way to volunteer. But I love looking at civilian roles, and I'm curious if there's more than 7 today. Let's see. It's rolling the. No, it's still 7. Social media specialist, corporate communications, facial recognition analyst, intermediate technical analyst. Then there's senior communication advisor, general counsel, legal services, communications operator, and developer for the digital team. Posted date is important, but when you look inside, you will see that there's a closing date. You have to apply before then. So if you're thinking about it, don't think too long, because you may lose your opportunity to apply. And I don't want that for you. I want you to actually have a good chance of getting the job of your dreams, a career. And I will say this, I say it all the time. This is a job that I'm doing today, but it's part of a career. This is a career of many jobs. I started as a court officer. I became a supervisor in courts. I went to different court locations. They had different personalities, different things that they did, different ways of doing it. I became a police constable. I went to 12 Division. I worked in the traffic office in 12 after working PRU. Then I came to traffic services. I worked in the PRU of traffic services, went to the motor squad, went to the CIB, the Criminal Investigation Bureau or Detective's Office. I then went back to the PRU. I went back to the motor squad. Now I'm in media relations. There are so many different jobs. Oh, I worked at headquarters. I worked like at the strategy management office. I've done all sorts of different jobs, and it's all as a police officer. Well, not all, but some was court officer. In any case, what I'm getting at is you won't get bored here. You can change your thing, whatever your thing is. And I think that's pretty awesome. And wouldn't you like to be awesome? And of course, I watch the tactical folks do tactical things, and the motor squad doing motor squad things. It's a lot of fun. And there's a lot of meaningful, good stuff that we do, aside from fun. Okay. Let's see. Scrolling back to find out where I left off on questions. I'm flagging a bunch because things are starting to come in faster. Princess Pamela says, former NYPD? No. Although they are our brothers from other mothers and sisters too. But the deal is that we have a great relationship with the NYPD, and I used to go there every year for the memorial. Shout out to the NYPD. You guys rock. But maybe you're former NYPD. Well, if that's the case, you rock. I had to think about that. In any case, New York, I love New York. Truly, it's not just a T-shirt for me. I really love New York. And I have family in New York. Not just the police family. I have actual family in New York. And there's cheesecake in New York. I love the cheese. So there's a cheesecake joint that I quite like just outside of Times Square. Junior's Cheesecake, it's called. And then, of course, there's steak. Anyway, I could go on for hours. Okay. What's this? Oh, somebody was suggesting that I was not true that you can't drive on highways that have a speed limit over 80. And there are some exemptions. Highway 11 is Yonge Street. I don't know that there's a 90-kilometer-an-hour speed limit in some areas. That's possible. It's 60 in our areas. But there are exemptions if it's the only road, and they're listed exemptions. But generally speaking, it's 400 series highways and a number of listed highways. Okay. What do we got here? Oh, Stephen Bell says, Stephen Bell, whose birthday is today, says, I hate it when when other drivers don't signal. You said singles, but I know what you meant. To know if they are turning left, and I think they're going straight when I could turn left. People who don't communicate their moves not only are breaking the law, but making it dangerous and frustrating for others. Do old age people do driving test and vision test after a certain age? Yeah, there are requirements. I believe it starts with a written test. They may do vision. Requirements are on drivetest.ca or on the MTO site. But yeah, there is a certain period of time when you start going in for regular checks. And that's good. People say, well, it's ageism. Well, it's reality. I've also, if they're also being stopped or involved in collisions, and the collision, if we detect that there's some confusion or problems, we might even suggest that they be reevaluated. As a police officer, we can make that determination or that suggestion to the ministry. Good question. Is it allowed to touch a phone which is on a windshield phone holder to adjust the map, for example? No, you cannot. You can mount it there when you're on private property or in a legal parking space and prepare it and set forth onto your drive, at which point you can no longer touch your phone except to answer or hang up a call. That is the only thing. You can have a single touch. The courts have determined that press and swipe is legal, but beyond that is use, and that includes touching to accept ride share stuff or maps. Can't do it. Let's see here. Someone came up with an innovation to detect drugs. There is such technology already available, but I don't know who to suggest you talk to get your product going. Can you drive with wheel spacers? It really depends on the wheels and the space. If your wheels are protruding from the body, not covered, that's not legal. So then no. But the wheel spacers are generally meant for adapting different wheels to different, like OEMs or wheels that are not designed specifically. They might need a spacer to fit on your vehicle and not make contact with bad things. What is this? What's the fine for pulling into the right oncoming lane onto the highway? People do this in traffic. So driving contraflow, like driving into oncoming traffic, assuming there's no traffic there, that's called passing. Trying to figure out, painting a picture. You need to tell me, pulling into the right oncoming lane? Now you need to describe that a little better for me. I'm trying to figure out what you're talking about. Connor M195 says, hey, hope all is well. What's the law in regards to motorcycles filtering slowly at a stoplight? I like that you say slowly at a stoplight. Filtering is different than lane splitting. Lane splitting is generally at speed through moving traffic or stop traffic, but just driving down the road in between vehicles. You're splitting the lane. That is careless driving, stunt driving, or criminal dangerous driving. If we're talking about someone who doesn't want to get rear-ended when the person on their phone approaching the light finds them, that is different. And yeah, so if you're filtering and you're just, waddling up a few feet, maybe a few car lengths, I personally have no issue with it. Could another officer say that's lane splitting? Possibly. Could they lay a charge? Possibly. It's up to them. There is no specific lane splitting charge, and you might be able to articulate that you weren't doing it and that you were actively trying to avoid becoming someone's bumper friend. But if you're going through traffic to the other side of traffic, filtering becomes splitting at a certain point, and it then becomes the discretion of the officer. Okay. Doug Allen wants to know, he says, not a question about Ontario, but are deaf people allowed to drive in places where headphones are not allowed? You make a very good point, because driving does not require a hearing test, but they still have rules that govern what you can do about covering your ears. And it's in the States as the same thing. The majority of those places allow one headphone, but not two. In fact, when I bought my headset for my motorcycle helmet in the States, I was in Lake George, New York at the time for Americade, they had one headphone reversed to comply with law. I think it's New York law. I don't believe that there's a requirement for hearing anywhere for driving, but I could be wrong. So sadly, I don't have a good answer for you other than it's a good discussion point. I'm glad you brought it up, and now I'm curious to know. So we'll have to do some research. Does Toronto and Ontario, one second here, does Toronto and Ontario use body cams, and if not, why? Storm Gaming Official wants to know this, and we do have body cams. Any officer who's on the road is wearing a body cam. Which is great. We love them. That helps us present information that is used to defend us in the senseless allegations that we so often see. Nobody wants to be held accountable, so they say, oh, the cop did something wrong. And then, of course, the body cam shows that we didn't. Obviously, if we did something wrong, then it works in their favor. But if you're doing the right thing, there's nothing to hide. Okay, we talked about that. Why do you guys let car thieves ship cars to Dubai? I don't think let is the right word. How have people continued to be able to do it? Because they're criminals and they're breaking all the rules, and we're the police and we have lots of rules to follow. If we didn't have to follow rules, we would not have as many issues catching said bad people. But as long as we're confined to the law, which is what we are, we play within the rules, yeah, they're going to have an advantage. That's why they're criminals. They don't play by the rules. I think I've beaten that up enough. Can you drive your parents' car without your name being added to the insurance? So legally, you can drive a car that is licensed and insured, and if you are a licensed and insured or a licensed driver, you can operate that vehicle. There's no ticket that we would give you for not being on the insurance because that's not our business. You're talking about a discussion between a private company who provides insurance and the person who paid for the insurance product. Now, is it possible that that the insurance company will say, we're not covering them because we said they'd have to be on a policy if they live with you, because that may be in the contract that you signed or that your parents signed. So it depends. Now, if you don't live with someone and they're not violating any rules, but some companies may say no one under the age of 25 can drive your car. And if that child is under the 25, then you're not covered. They're going to deny your claim. Not illegal from our perspective, but it's going to get you in hot water with them. What did they say? Someone was chirping about the way I said tactical. I don't know what I said. Did I say something other than tactical? In any case, sometimes I say tactical. But I like that. I love it when people judge. I say a lot of things. I'm speaking here since 45 minutes now. If I flub some words, it's going to happen. If it bothers you, too bad. We got here. Mel says, Crown Office employee, love all these Q&As. So many traffic issues clogging up the system. Slow down. Mel, Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you are A, here, B, enjoying what you see, and contributing. Thanks for the feedback. Love it. Okay. Somebody wants to know about me and my thoughts on religious permission to not wear a helmet. How about this one? I don't like excluding people based on religion. So if someone who is being true to their faith is excluded from participating in things because of their faith, I think that's unfair, and that should answer your question. Is it safe? That's a different question. It's not safe. But do I understand why it's done? I totally do. We talked about that. Catalina says, nothing is okay in here. Not sure what you're talking about, but I'm sure you do. Greg Marshall says, we need a pet peeves day. I'll start. Left lane squatters. Well, Greg, I hope that means somebody who's doing well under the speed limit because, nobody should be speeding. But anyway, yes, pet peeve day. I talk about pet peeves all the time. Okay. What's my opinion on some useless stop signs? Basically, there's a stop sign on an empty intersection. It's an intersection that someone determined through their awesome university degree or knowledge base that they needed one. Maybe they put it there now because it was cheaper to put it on when they were designing it than to add it later. And is it really a big problem to stop for a useless stop sign? Just deal with it. I don't know what to tell you. Can I carry a pocket knife in my pocket? Oddly enough, yes, you can. And I do. I open envelopes. I cut apples. I use a knife all the time. It's a tool. And if you're using it as a tool, you are awesome. And if you're carrying it for self-defense, you're probably going to get arrested. And I mean that because when you take that pocket knife out and you explain why you carry it, if you're explaining that you use it for self-defense, that's a weapon and not just a pocket knife. Different things for different terms for different uses. Where they say, USA is the best. Catalina Arangu. I'm glad that you are patriotic, but Canada is awesome too. And we're neighbors. Can't we just get along? I have family in the States. I've lived in the States. You guys got problems too. Hate to break it to you. See, look at that. Oh, Canada's rules don't make sense. Well, actually, American rules are equally messed up. Did you know that murder is a state law in the United States? Like every state has different rules about murder. In Canada, we simplified things. We made that a federal law. It makes a lot of sense. Our driving rules differ state to state and province to province. Well, similarly, how state to state they change too. So if you think it's simple, you're simply uninformed. But that's okay. That's why I'm here. I'm here to help. Johnny wants to know what kind of car I have. I have a truck. I don't have cars. Cars are too small. Let's see here. Can I drive by myself on a highway? Sorry, can I drive by myself on a highway by myself as a 16-year-old, but from the States? Memory lane. It depends. Do you have a license? Does your license have restrictions? Are you talking about driving in the States as an American, or do you mean as a visitor here? It all depends. But 16, if you were visiting here with a full license, then you'd be able to have all the rights and privileges of your license while driving here, as long as you're insured in a safe vehicle and so on. Yeah. Someone says, are you wearing pants? Yes. They are pants. Or I have pockets on my underwear and you can't see my legs. So, it is, I'm wearing pants. It would be very awkward if I was not. This is a great question, but I need coffee. I must caffeinate and hydrate simultaneously in order to respond to this question, but I think it's great. Stand by. I forget how hot the Yeti keeps my coffee, and that's piping hot since 4 a.m, 4:45. So what's the law on self-driving Teslas? It is a feature that is in the level 2 range. It's not level 3. It's not full autonomous. It requires the supervision of the driver. So you're there and you're responsible for everything that happens in that beta software. I do not understand, and I love Elon, but I do not understand the concept of unleashing a beta software to control a motor vehicle on our roads. I don't think it's right, because there are only a handful of vehicles that are permitted on the road as self-driving, and most of those are through a pilot project. Like, there's apparently a level 3 vehicle, but a level 3 vehicle is actually being managed and is being insured at that time by the manufacturer. They're the ones in control of the vehicle. A true level 3. Level 2, you are. So that's a different thing. I didn't mean to switch out of my own channel. Stand by. 141 people in the room. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's awesome to see you. I'm just sending myself some likes. Is that terrible? No, I wanted to see if one particular spammer was there that I would have to block, to mute. We do that on occasion. Oh, Ryan wants to know how roundabouts work. Roundabouts are apparently safer and more efficient than any other type of intersection. I question the reality based on drivers that I witness, like playing chicken every day. You are supposed to yield to the people inside of the roundabout. You don't need to signal going in, at least not in Ontario, and you're supposed to signal going out, or you can be ticketed. And it helps tell people who are waiting to enter what you're going to do. But nobody seems to signal except me and the very odd few. And most people have no idea what yield means because I take my life in my own hands every single time I enter a roundabout when I visit certain neighborhoods. So, yeah, that's the story. They're great. I like them. I like them a lot. I appreciate that traffic flows better, that there's less wear and tear on your vehicle, and that in the event of a collision, you're generally working at lower speeds, so less people or fewer people have the chance of being hurt. And that's the big deal. That's the reason they should exist, truly. Okay. What is the speed limit for a highway on-ramp? So you're going from the road speed, now you're actually on a highway, and you're accelerating to the highway speed. The yellow signs or the orange signs, whatever you determine is that color, they are cautionary signs that suggest that in ideal conditions, that's the fastest you can go in order to stay on the road. And oddly enough, we do these wonderful tests called drag tests to determine, if the speed, we check the speed based on skid testing, like the marks on the road, things like that, and determine how fast someone must have been going to lose traction and fly off the road. So they're really good suggestions, but we don't enforce speed limits on on-ramps because, those amber ones aren't, or the yellow or orange or whatever color they are not enforceable. The road speed is the road speed when you're on it. All right. Lauren wants to know about non-tinted license plate covers. Are they okay? I have a vanity plate and want to keep it safe. Technically, no. Now, I can tell you that I've never given a ticket to someone with a clear license plate cover if I've been able to identify and see clearly the license plate. If it was bubbled or designed to make it more difficult to see, or if it was just faded and dirty, then you would get a ticket. So is it okay? Technically, no. Even a license plate frame from your favorite dealer that sold you the car isn't permitted. Are you going to get into a lot of trouble? It's possible, but unlikely. If you're tinted or dirty or obscuring the plate in some way, then absolutely you'd be getting in trouble. $110 fine in Ontario for it. Let's see here. Oh. Rethink says, when pulling over to stop for whatever reason, do you signal right or put hazards? You signal a directional movement, and once you've stopped moving and you're staying put, those are what hazards are for. Hazards do not give sufficient amount of information and should not be used while the vehicle is moving. And if your vehicle can't go fast because it's in limp mode, is really an indicator that you should pull over and call a tow truck, not try and drive while your vehicle's not working properly. People do a lot of weird stuff. They put on hazard lights on when it rains. Guess what? I can see the rain too. I know it's raining. If you cannot see, if you think that you're that much of a hazard, get off the road. That is the message. Can I drive in Gatineau with my G2? I live in Ottawa. Yes. G2 is a probationary license. It allows you all the rights and privileges of driving, but you do have conditions. You must follow them. Farhan says, can I make a U-turn at a red light if it's safe? No cars coming. No, because you're proceeding before green. You are breaking the instruction of the red light. You cannot make a U-turn at a red light unless you're before the intersection. If you're before you can't enter an intersection on a red light. It's proceed before green if you came to a stop. It's running a red light if you did not. Ozzy's got a weird question that I'm going to ignore because it's not serious. Lauren says, thank you. You're most welcome. Okay, what do we got here? Is there a fine for pulling into the highway entrance lane to jump ahead of traffic? I think that's what you were talking about. You were saying passing on the right. Now I understand. Thank you for rephrasing it. See, it's a partnership here. So the deal is that if you are crossing the bullnoses of ramps, you're driving off the roadway, and there is a ticket for that. If you're doing something careless, dangerous, or unsafe, whatever, there are tickets for that. Simply going into the lane, crossing at the areas where you're entitled to cross, and then going back in is ignorant. It's unsafe, but it may not be illegal. I say unsafe because it just makes everybody upset. You're getting 6 car lengths ahead. There is no benefit to it. You're making new chances, more opportunities for collision. But in terms of charges, it would have to be something careless based on more than just doing it. It has to be that what you did caused an issue. Potentially speeding or unsafe lane change or drive off roadway, but not just for doing that. It has, if you're doing it within the confines of what's permitted under law, then it's just being a jerk. I said it. Okay. Yeah. Let's hear. Hardy says, if my license plate is dirty enough to partially cover a letter, am I eligible for a ticket? Yeah. If you have dirt on your license plate, you are eligible for it's a charge called dirty plate. And that's becoming more of an issue. Now, people are intentionally leaving dirt and debris on their plates to avoid detection. So it's not permitted. $110 fine. If you, what am I thinking here? If it's snowing and it's actively building on your vehicle because of snow, it's reasonable. But when you stop your vehicle, you should clear it. And if you don't, it's going to look like you didn't, and we're going to give you a ticket for it. Okay, we already covered this one. Ty Hyde says, morning, PC Shapiro. Have you worked with my Uncle Eaton in courts? I get to call your Uncle Eaton an awesome, fantastic, magical man from Happy Land. I love him. He's a good friend of mine. I used to work directly for him when I was a supervisor at Old City Hall, and when I first got promoted to court services supervisor. So I went from 2201 Finch Avenue West. I transferred to Old City Hall courts as a supervisor, and he taught me a whole bunch of stuff. I love and respect him. He's a great guy. He was at my wedding. That's like, we're talking, and we've been talking, and you can tell him this, that we've been talking for about 3 years, maybe longer, about going for lunch. It hasn't worked out. Actually, it's more than that, because I used to visit him all the time when I was in the motor squad and on the road at Old City Hall. I had a lot of court there. And for everyone who's listening to me talking about my friend Eaton, sorry, I'm having a moment with Ty. So I used to visit all the time, and I just haven't had that ability since I'm not on the road anymore. So give him a call. And if you go to TrafficCop.ca and send me a message, I can actually send you a link to this so you can send it to him. Maybe I'll send him a link to this directly. I'm going to harass him on the phone after. But shout out to an awesome guy. Thanks for saying hello, because I appreciate it. I like reminiscing about magical people in my life. Okay, let's see here. Some put, do you mean some or Sean? No, don't put your hazard. A lot of people put this hazards on for low visibility. You have lights on your car. We don't need them to flash for us to know that there are lights on. Your vehicle's lights are already there. If your vehicle's lights are flashing, it should signify that your vehicle is not in motion. People who have hazards on as they're driving are like lighthouses that move. It's silly. Don't do it. What's the fine for a tow truck driver chasing a call? Like for driving carelessly, dangerously, or stunt driving to get somewhere? It's careless driving, stunt driving, or there could be additional charges. But that's the basics. Why the permit Ontario is cheaper than I think a permit in Quebec includes insurance. They're provincial insurance, so I would assume that's what it is. I don't know for certain. I don't live in Quebec, but I believe that's the way it is. Are colored fog lights illegal as long as it isn't red or blue? Are they illegal or legal? The only color light you can project forward is white or yellow. So anything other than white or yellow is illegal. And red is very specifically an additional charge. Red light forward is an additional charge. How long do deer point stay with you? I think you mean points. Points on your license stay for 2 years from the date of offense. So if you paid a ticket, you'd have 2 points or 3 points or however many points added at that point of conviction and registration, and they'd stay for 2 years. If you went to court and you didn't get to court for 2 years and you were convicted, you'd have no points because they would have already expired. They'd no longer go on your license. Your conviction, however, stays for 3 years. And that's what the insurance company cares about. They don't care about points. Points are for the Ministry of Transportation to track your driving and decide if you need any other kind of issues. Now, if you were to get points, like if you're a learner's permit person, G1, G2, M1, M2, points 4 or more get you a suspension. So not necessarily a good thing. Nothing you want to collect. And they're all avoidable. Just don't break the law. What is this? My state allows certain tag numbers to be on different size. Is this permitted where you are? Tag numbers? I'm not picking up what you're putting down, my friend. I don't know what you're talking about. Tag numbers? Do you mean license plate numbers? What are we talking about? What is this? When making a left turn, do you go straight into the lane closest to the left or to the center turn merge? When you're turning, you turn into the appropriate lane, not a center merge lane. However, when you are, if you're turning left, you go into the leftmost lane, but the center lane is not a merging lane. If you're turning onto a street that's, like, we're not talking about a regular intersection, you're like a T intersection, many people do go into that center lane improperly for safety, and I don't have a problem with it, but others might. Why don't we have standard rules for setting up bike lanes on streets? Standard rules would ensure all vehicles know what to do. Well, because everywhere is different and our city is old and infrastructure is such that every intersection is designed different, so implementing modifications to old systems are different everywhere. Yeah, I don't have a good answer for you. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a civil engineer. I'm not an engineer of any kind, so I don't know what to tell you. And I can tell you that every intersection is designed with a random pick out of a hat sort of mentality, at least from where I'm sitting, because I don't know. I don't even understand how some of these intersections, like the way the bike lanes are crossing, very weird stuff. And maybe there's a training course that I've missed, but I don't get it. Oh, can you do a right on red, then do another right on red to go through a long light? We don't forget the U-turn in the middle. But technically you could, as long as it's all legal and safe. We talked about this. When and how do traffic offenses become criminal offenses? Is there guidelines or up to the officer? Well, a traffic offense doesn't become a criminal offense. There are traffic offenses, there are like Highway Traffic Act offenses, and then there is something that is criminal that involves a vehicle. So where's a good example? Dangerous driving under the Criminal Code of Canada is when someone who's driving is putting lives at risk. It is not because you made a left turn, right turn, ran a light. It's in addition to those offenses, but because it was such an egregious behavior that it was putting, or ought to have known that it was putting, lives in immediate harm's way. And those become criminal. And it is an officer's discretion if they're going that way, because they've got to be able to justify, to articulate cause to lay that charge. You've got to be able to say, this is what I'm charging them for, and this is why I'm charging them for it. And that's the story. Whereas traffic offenses are very cut and dry. This happened, thus this charge is appropriate. Are 5-point seatbelt legal to wear on the road? So this is a funny one. If it's a factory 5-point that meets all the regulations, well, yes. But generally speaking, no. Because most people are putting these on from their Amazon purchase. They don't meet the requirements for the road. They're not legal. You could wear it, but you'd have to wear the OEM seatbelt over it, and you cannot legally remove an OEM seatbelt. Something else to consider. When someone's wearing a harness, a racing harness, they are put in that harness. I mean, we're talking about a race car driver. They're actually strapped in. There's no retractor on a racing harness. They don't allow you to move. They basically, someone stands on that strap when they're putting it in, using great force to make you one with the seat. So you are stuck to that seat like glue. You are one with the vehicle. None of this, there's no movement. But I see these great videos, and I use it in training videos that I've created for officers. And people are like able to get their drink from the center console. They'll lean up, and there's like inches worth of gap. That will cause tremendous injury in the event of a collision. So the answer is no, they're not. Not usually. What about doing 80 in the middle lane? 80 in the middle lane is legal. Passing lane is for the people doing the speed limit. The lanes to the right are for people going at or below the speed limit. What are the rules when passengers are in self-driving taxis that commit traffic violations? First of all, Cam, I have to acknowledge that this is not happening in Ontario. We do not have any self-driving taxis in Ontario. There's nobody operating with full autonomous mode vehicles here except for Gatwick, which is going through a pilot project with Loblaws, and a university using a small vehicle that I'm aware of. There might be new ones that have come onto the scene recently, but there are no taxis offering this service. It is a pilot project for scientific and research functionality or development of the product. But in areas that I'm watching, and actually I have a video that I have to clip for a stitch where an autonomous vehicle taxi made a left turn and went down the wrong way. Like, I don't want to get in one of these. I have no faith in this technology at this time. I'm glad that somebody else is willing to pay for it and experience it to let the beta test continue. But basically, any one of these companies operating has the autonomous vehicle being supervised by an off-site person, basically like a drone. And in some places, they're managing one-to-one. Others are managing multiple-to-one, but they are responsible, and they would be the ones getting the ticket. In Ontario, for the pilot project, the company is entirely responsible for any collision they're in, and their remote management person could also be charged. We talked about this earlier, but Hardy wants to know if lane splitting is illegal in Ontario. It is illegal across Canada. What is this? Blood Tiger says, got my golden call on Monday, joining the RCMP, starting training June 3rd. Congratulations, Blood Tiger. That is awesome. You have fun at Depot, man. Learn, be a sponge, stay focused, don't get hurt, and go out and make a difference. I'm proud of you. That's awesome. I love hearing about new officers entering the field. It is welcome to the family. Okay. Since OPP is provincial, can they make a traffic stop in Ontario? So here's an interesting thing. OPP, they're provincial constables. Their jurisdiction is the province. Toronto constables have the same authority to stop a vehicle anywhere in the province because we're sworn for the province of Ontario, but our jurisdiction is here and we focus our efforts in the place that we're paid. Or we're paid to focus on Toronto because we're like a hustling, bustling city. But we have the authority to pull people over on the highway, and they have the authority to pull people over in the city because we could pull people over anywhere in the province. And we are police officers 24/7, even when we're off duty. I don't know what Jalen wants to know. James says, thank you for the answer. You're very welcome. What's the penalty for left lane camping? It's failing to pull to the right when not passing. Is that the word? There's two charges that the OPP use. $110 is essentially the fine. What would happen if a G1 driver was stopped on a highway with and without a licensed driver? With and without? With a licensed driver, they get charged for G1 in violation of conditions, I believe it is. If they're stopped without a licensed driver, where they're charged with being in violation. No, actually, you said highway, and I'm going to assume that you mean a regular road, because a highway is a regular road. It is not an expressway. It's all roads. Controlled access highway is what you normally call an expressway or parkway. I don't know why we call it a parkway. Anyway, the deal is that they're in violation of a condition, and they're driving if they're without a driver supervising them with appropriate license qualifications, they are driving unaccompanied. They're going to get a $110 ticket, possibly both of those, depending on what we're seeing. And they're going to get a 30-day suspension on conviction, a 90-day on the second conviction. On the third conviction, they're going to get kicked out of the program. The person who let them drive in violation of a condition will also be charged, or can also be charged. So that means if mom gives little Bobby a car, I say little Bobby, a 16-year-old Bobby to drive the car in violation of their condition, I would charge mom or dad, who owns that vehicle, for allowing it to happen. Now, if they said, well, we didn't give little Bobby the permission, little Bobby took it without consent, then that's criminal charges for little Bobby for taking vehicle without consent, which I think is fantastic. Hold little Bobby accountable. Let's see here. We talked about that. Do e-bikes have to keep up with traffic, or do drivers have to slow down to their speed? E-bikes are bicycles if they qualify. So if you cannot, your e-bike reverts to its original status of motorcycle if it's capable of going more than 32 kilometers an hour, which is a whole different topic. But bicycles, e-bike or otherwise, need to stay to the right of the lane, and cars passing must give them 1 meter of clearance. They don't have to keep up with the flow of traffic. They just need to stay to the right. Now, if they want to stay and own that lane, then they must be able to keep up with the flow of traffic. Otherwise, they are breaking the law. But they may have justification to not keep up with traffic. Like if the right side of the lane is occupied by dirt, gravel, damage, geese, I don't know, whatever reason they can't be there, then they could articulate owning that lane and being there. But if there's an opportunity to stay to the right, that's their obligation. Okay. But if they're capable of going more than 32 kilometers an hour on a flat surface, they are under power. They are motorcycles, not qualified as e-bikes anymore. They lose their status. Clear Cut Cody says that I hear about the Fort Mac fires. I did not hear anything about that. I tend not to have a lot of time to get into news outside of my area because I'm so focused on trying to stay up to date here, and I don't even do that all the time. Can you leave your plate in the back window, or does it have to be screwed on? Say if you buy a new car, does it still have to be screwed onto? You have to mount your plate in the spot where it's illuminated, and it has to be a conspicuous place at the rear of the vehicle. Behind the glass is not a conspicuous place. It's not where you'd normally mount it. Vehicles have a place to put it. Put it there. Back plate must be illuminated by a 3 lumens or a 3 candela light source, and if you don't have that, you're eligible for a ticket. Front plate must be at the front of the vehicle in a conspicuous place. Doesn't matter if it's center, the middle of your grill, the appropriate mounting spot, but it has to be mounted at the front, not behind the windshield. Is windshield tint illegal? I see so much here, though thought it was illegal. It is illegal. You can't have tint on your windshield at all. If you have a vehicle that's older than 2017, so 2016 or older, you can have a 3-inch tint strip across the top, but that's it. And Mike says, fellow Torontonian here, why do so many cars have illegal tints and plate covers? Because people don't care. They just do stuff. And some people call it, looking cool on the subscription method or plan. We'll ticket them all the time. But the truth is, it's not our focus, right? We don't do stings for tint. We focus our efforts on the big four. And if you missed what the big four in the beginning, this is the big four. It's speeding, aggressive driving, distracted driving, and impaired driving. And the folks who are doing other stuff get away with a lot of it until we catch them doing one of these things, and then we get them for all of the other things. We have to focus on saving lives. We have to prioritize based on the number of officers we have available to do this kind of work. Radek says, good morning, I'm late to the party. You are late. I want you to think about that, how that made us all feel. No, I'm glad you're here. Here. I'm getting ready to write my OACP exam in the next few days. Any pointers? You've been studying this a long time. If it's anything police-related, relax. What you should focus on is getting good sleep, not being stressed out. Stress is a killer. It also, messes our ability to write tests. So you want to be as stress-free as possible. I don't know what's on this new OACP. When I did it, it was all basic math, basic spelling, work on speed. The big thing when you're writing the test is don't get hung up on something you don't know. Skip it, come back to it if need be, but finish the test. People get really hyper-focused on each question being perfect, and what happens is they never finish, and that's going to be a bigger problem. Okay. Can I drive my bicycle on the right shoulder if I'm making a right turn? What shoulder are we talking about? I don't know many roads that have shoulders in Toronto, so usually we call that a curb and then the sidewalk starts. So tell me where you are. If you're on a highway, you can't be on a highway. Like you can't be on a controlled access highway. What's this? Okay, scrolling down. Can I ride with no front plate? Ride? Do you mean a motorcycle? Well, they're the only exemption under the Highway Traffic Act for no front plate. And ATVs and snowmobiles. What else? If a cyclist hits your hood and cycles away, can you chase them on foot to stop them? That's interesting. I hope you have a dash cam. I would not suggest engaging and chasing people. That just sounds like a very bad idea. That's not going to end well. So capturing their identity and dealing with it. And did they damage it when they hit your hood? Or do you mean they ran into it physically and crashed into you? It's different because there's an obligation if they crashed into you to exchange information. I had my G2 expire in 2018. Do I have to restart from G1? 2018. You are probably still okay, but you might need an eye test. You need to talk to a drive test. I'm not entirely sure. After a certain time, you do have to start again, but I think you're within that. Ty Hyde says, that's awesome. I'll bug him for you. Take care, PC. Awesome. Thanks, Ty. Let's see here. We talked about this. Scrolling through a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter because Jared says, but that doesn't matter, so I don't know what they're talking about. What should we do if we see people who are distracted driving, and what to do if cop? Well, if you're seeing people who are driving distracted, pay attention because they're not, and stay away from them. I would probably prefer them to be in front of me than behind me because if they're behind me, they might be running into me. Is it a 911 call? Not unless you think there is immediate risk of harm or death and that it's going to continue by the time we get to you, because we're probably going to be a while. If it's different than an impaired driver, which is absolutely an immediate call for emergency services now, or police specifically, I should say. And if it's a cop, well, they're legally permitted to do it. Now, you can put a complaint in if you think it's inappropriate. That's something that you and only you can decide what to do. It would be done afterwards. And if you're capturing a video of them, make sure you're not using your phone to do it because that's also illegal. And they can write you a ticket for it even though they're legally permitted to do it themselves. I know people don't like being told that, but it's true. We have issued phones, and those are police phones with police functionality. We could be running a license plate. If we're ordering pizza, it's obviously inappropriate. We would not be doing that. I would hope we would not be doing that. And that's where I say, if you think that that person deserves a complaint, you can make that complaint. That's your prerogative. All right. Are you allowed to refuse the new alcohol testing? I'm so glad that you asked that because the answer is absolutely not. In fact, if you refuse a blood or if you refuse a breath test or a roadside, what am I looking for? A roadside sobriety test, or even a secondary test when you go to a breath tech or a drug recognition expert test or evaluation, that's the same as failing it. If you say, I'm not doing it, I refuse, well, you're going to be charged criminally for refuse. And the same consequences as if you failed. So, yeah, you're obligated by law to comply. You may not like it. You can get legal, advice. I'm not giving you legal advice. I'm telling you that we will charge you criminally, and your license will be suspended if you refuse. Now, you have to understand, new alcohol testing law, it isn't new. 2018 is when it came into play. And that means that mandatory alcohol screening, which involves the ability for police to make a demand without having the suspicion of alcohol being in your blood. So we can say, we're going to stop everyone that we stop for speeding and give them a test. That is entirely lawful. And we don't have suspicion, but we're going to test everybody because it's unbiased. We're not testing you because you're you. We're testing you because we tested everybody else, and we're going to test everybody else we stop after you. That's the story. Hope that helps. If you have more questions, feel free. Stevie Blade says, 101.1 the hits. Yeah. Yeah, we're going to have to do some radio stuff. Actually, I messaged. I wonder if they messaged back. Normally, I'd be on the radio tomorrow with. Okay, cool. Yeah, nice. Oh, Jerry's out of town. So normally we're on the Jerry Agar show every other Wednesday, and next week I'm on vacation. By the way, next week I'm on vacation. Breaking the news. Breaking news. Yeah, so I won't be here, and that means there'll be no show. Hopefully I'll have some podcast stuff to fill the air, but I'll be back the following week. So we still have this week, where we do this Monday to Friday, usually, doing this thing we call Ask a Traffic Cop from 10 till whenever. Yesterday we did it till noon. Today we're doing it for another 12 minutes. 11:30 we're gonna call it. Okay. Someone almost got into a collision and it popped out and I can't see. I see people with no front plate. What is it? No front plate in Ontario. Is this legal? No, it's absolutely illegal. Ontario vehicles must have two plates, other than motorcycles. What is this? Since OPP, we talked about this. Maybe I scrolled back too far. It was too far. Yeah, I went way too far. Scrolling down to find new questions. Oh, wow, I went way too far back. I thought we scrolled up. You see, every once in a while, things update, and then they erase all the old. I have a couple flagged questions that I'll jump to in a second. Holy moly. Okay, there's a cyclist question. There's my G2. Okay, we're back to where we were supposed to be. Stop car thefts. That unit's working on it. This is not the right unit for that discussion. But I understand that it is terrible. My neighbor had their vehicle stolen out of the driveway, and every day I start my vehicle, I am impressed that it is still there. Have you always worked for Toronto Police Service? No. I have done all sorts of things in my previous pre-policing life, but as a police member, I started as an auxiliary with the Toronto Police, then a court officer, and then continued into policing. And I'm in 24 years now of working for the Toronto Police Service. Best place in the world. You should join. How to ride a horse in the city. You don't ride a horse in the city. There's bylaws preventing you from doing it, although we have police officers who can. Different cities have different rules. If you go to Elmer, Ontario, which is outside of London, where the police college is, there are people on horseback all the time. Bird Dad. Interesting. They taught people to put their their hazards on. Interesting. Is it illegal to vinyl wrap license plates as long as you keep the registration stickers and numbers? It is absolutely illegal to modify a plate. It is actually an arrestable offense. Modifying your plate. Now, granted, it's for a modification. It's intended to change the look, to change the numbers, but doing it is arrestable. What is this? Do I need to make a stop on a green light while taking a right turn? I'm kind of nervous because you asked this question. And the reason I'm nervous is because this is stuff, if you're a driver, you should know. You don't have to, but you need to yield to pedestrians. And if there's pedestrians coming, you have to yield to them, which would make you required to stop. So it depends. You do have to stop when making a right turn on a red light, and that's where most people get it wrong. They just drive right through it, which is infuriating. One of my biggest pet peeves. Why not fine who making U-turn in red lights? Cherry Tomato, you make a good point. We should fine people who break the law at red lights. Problem is we're not always there. And we can only do what we can do because we have to be there to do it. Is TPS following the OPP with regards to breathalyzer at every stop? No, Jeff, we're not. We're not making it a policy, but each individual officer could say that that's their policy. They could, at the beginning of their shift, say, I am going to carry a breathalyzer with me or a roadside screening device, and I'm going to implement mandatory alcohol screening at every stop. So regardless of suspicion, I'm going to utilize it. They put it in their notes at the start. They do it at every stop, and it's perfectly legitimate to do that. Not every officer wants to do that. Not every officer does do that, but it is an option, whereas the OPP has mandated that everyone shall do it. Okay. Can you do right turn on red all over Canada? U.S. All over U.S. and Canada? No. Like, for instance, in Montreal, actually, there's a rule in Montreal, the island, that you can't make a right turn on red. I can't speak to other provinces and states. I don't know all of them, but it is being discussed in many places to make it illegal because it's considered unsafe for pedestrians. And I can't deny that there's not having right turns on reds would be safer. Can G1 drivers can have a car and insurance? G1 drivers can own a car because you don't have to have a license to have a car, to own it, and to insure it, that's up to the insurance company as to whether or not you'll get coverage. Many G1 drivers can't get insurance. But is it impossible? No, it's not impossible. You can't drive it without a supervising driver, but that doesn't mean you can't own it. If I drive my e-bike recklessly, would you impound it? So, no, we wouldn't. We could seize it and put it into property under certain circumstances, like to protect it. Like if you're impaired and we're arresting you, we now have to put it somewhere that we can come back and get it and protect it while you're in custody. But we don't impound e-bikes because they don't have VINs and license plates and so on. Now, if your e-bike is a motorcycle, because it's something that was doing 70 kilometers an hour, it's arguable that that is a motor vehicle and should be at the pound, but there's problems with that. So it's not an easy answer to give because it's not cut and dry. Do I know Kowalski? Let's see here. Where'd it go? Everything's scrolled back. Gotta go find it. Boop-a-doop-a-doo. Come on. 6 minutes to go. If you got dad jokes, enter them now so I can get to them. still looking. A lot of things to read here. If you saw what I saw, can I show you what I see? Maybe I can show you. And you can know my pain. I can't show it to you. Window? Yeah, I can show it to you here. Let's see how messed up I make it. So, oh yeah, that didn't work. Anyway, I have lots and lots of things that I'm doing. So while I'm doing this, and I had some people join me in studio, and they went, we had no idea what you go through in producing the show, because I am me, myself, and I. There's nobody else that's involved with the production. I've had people, assist me, and of course we have our unofficial, producers out there in TikTok and YouTube who help us out by, when things don't go right, they take it upon themselves to help. But it's there's nobody officially doing it. Okay. Is riding a bike while intoxicated considered DUI? Not in Ontario, but like in Florida it is. If it's an e-bike, an electric scooter, and an e-bike, electric skateboard, anything other than muscular power, it would be under the influence of drugs or alcohol, and impaired driving would be a thing. Not for a pedal bike. Now, you could still be charged with an offense, but it wouldn't be that. Let's see here. Boom, boom, boom. When pulling over for moving violation, what determines if they impound the car? Yeah, impaired driving is an impound. Stunt driving is an impound. That's pretty much it. There's other things where someone might qualify for an impound based on previous things. If it's a interlock offense, if it's drive disqualified, I believe there's impound. I haven't looked that up in a long time. Yesterday, I got into a collision, and the guy had a G1. Car was registered in his name, and he had insurance. And hopefully, they were charged for everything. But yeah, that's totally possible. But they should have been charged, regardless of who caused the collision. They should be charged for their violations. Okay, scrolling. Zombie. It's the end, but hello, happy Wednesday, and goodbye, LOL. Zombie has been busy at home, but she used to be here every day. We haven't seen her in a long time, but pops in and say hello once in a while, and we appreciate the visits. All right, scrolling through looking for cues. Is reflective tint, chrome or other colors, illegal? On the windows left and right of the driver, you cannot use reflective tint, and obviously you can't have it on the windshield because you'd be obscuring the interior of your motor vehicle with a color or reflective tint, which is actually the wording under the HTA. So you can't do that. It's a $110 ticket, even if the amount of light being restricted is not that tremendously high. Okay. Scrolling. Rules regarding infant in car. We feed in a, what is this? Can we feed in a running car? What are the implications? Feeding, like breastfeeding. So infant must be properly secured in the car. You cannot take them out for feeding. There are things you can use if you're using a bottle, but you can't. It would be unsafe for you to twist and try and make that happen if you were breastfeeding. If you're talking about feeding, as long as they're properly secured, you're okay. But you need to be properly seated too, and for your own safety. Bottle is the way to go. I remember there was like a remote bottle kind of thing that I had. It was like it was the sussy or the pacifier that had a tube that ran into the bottom of a straw into a baby bottle, so they were able to do it more comfortably, because sometimes it's uncomfortable. In any case, if you go to ASKaTrafficCop.ca, where's my link here? ASKaTrafficCop.ca. If you go there, you can go to useful links, and there's all sorts of information. But you got to be very careful. A lot of people get injured trying to make things work, and then collisions occur. Bad stuff. But don't take them out of the car seat. They become projectiles in collisions when they're not, secured appropriately. And then you get charged, and there's tragedy. So just don't do it. Okay. Scrolling, looking for jokes, because I think we're at the time where we have 2 minutes, which means no more questions. I love you, and all the questions are here, and I'd love to be able to get to them, but I don't have time. Going. Oh my goodness, there's so many. Like, you have no idea how many there are. I'm scrolling through pages and pages and pages, and I apologize to everyone who's in the pages that I'll be ignoring. What is this? People want to know if they can refuse the testing. No, you cannot. Orbeez guns? I didn't know they had Orbeez guns. I saw in Saskatoon an RCMP gave a driver a distracted driving ticket, $580 while he was in the drive-thru. Different laws in different provinces. In Ontario, that law does not apply to private property. I can't imagine why it would be on private property in Saskatchewan, but I'll have to look into that. That is not against the law here. And the only laws for the HDA that really apply that most people are concerned about are stunt driving. Stunt driving laws apply on private property, but you don't have to have a license to drive on private property. Why would maybe they caused a collision in the drive-thru? Like that's ridiculous. RCMP need to change that if they have, or it should be changed in Saskatchewan, if that is in fact the rules. But sometimes cops do things they're not supposed to, like they don't understand the law and they lay charges, and it's just silliness. Who has the right of way, a U-turn or a right turn on red? The right turn has more of a priority. Well, the U-turn, that's a funny one. So the U-turn is doing the most dangerous thing, and they're changing into the law. But the right turn is as a red light. So the right turn person has to wait until it's safe to do so before they can proceed. And the person who's in the U-turn must be able to ensure that they can complete the turn in safety. I would say they're 50-50 and you charge both people. Are bylaw officers allowed to park illegally, or are they subject to the same parking laws? Well, bylaw officers who are actively enforcing bylaws are allowed to park where they need to park in order to enforce those bylaws. They can't just drive down the street and then walk 6 blocks to come, and then the bylaw violation is left by. The parking enforcement officer can double park while they're issuing a ticket for parking. Police officers can park whatever they need to do to respond to calls or to be accessible to their vehicles so they can respond to other calls. So, yeah. What was this? Okay. Someone's sending addresses. Don't know what that's about. Okay. For hunting season, do I have to hide my gun, or can I throw it in the back seat in the open? It's been a long time since I've done any hunting training, so I couldn't give you a good answer. The trunk secured is the best way. There are rules about transporting non-restricted firearms that are different than restricted. Depends on what jurisdiction you're in. Are you in Canada? Are you in the United States? I don't know there. But generally speaking, it all depends on whether you were physically there, because people have been charged for not securing their firearms in their vehicle and leaving them there. Like, that's different. It's not a storage location. But in transit, the rules change considerably. So if you're in the vehicle, do you need to hide it? You're in the vehicle. If you're leaving the vehicle, do you need to hide it? You shouldn't be leaving there. It's not a storage place. But I'm not a firearms lawyer, nor a transportation specialist working in that area. I'm a traffic guy. All right. Almost down at the list. Hey, I'm at my list. Now I can go into my pinned list. And there's the quote, dad joke. This is a question from the beginning, which hopefully Adil Ahmad is still here. My son is 12. Can he sit in the front seat? Technically, yes. Back seat is best till 14, but can you legally have a child sit in the front seat? Sure. Should you keep the back, if that's not an option, like you can't put them in the back seat or there's no other room, put that seat to the rearmost position, because airbags do damage to young people and smaller people. So is it ideal? No. Is it legal? Yes. There's a lot of questions about this today. Distracted driving. So in Ontario, no, it's not illegal to use your phone on private property. But if you cause a collision, you're still at fault for the collision. Okay. Talked about this. Of course, I didn't mean to ignore Evandro. I flagged it for later. Good morning, everybody. Follow the rules, follow the law, drive safe, be a good example for this new generation. Great message from Evandro. Evandro is a auxiliary officer with Peel Regional Police, and who knows, maybe he'll come back to Toronto one day. But he's our Brazilian fan, as he always introduces himself. Okay, quote from Michaela Draconis. Friends are angels who lift us to our feet when our wings have trouble remembering how to fly. By Anonymous. You'd think that it wouldn't be so anonymous. That's a pretty powerful statement. Dad joke. Okay, here we go. Dad joke. What did the bumper sticker on the trailer say? Any guesses? I go where I'm towed. I like that. All right. That's it, folks. You know how that goes. I am gone for today. Back tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We'll do it all again. We'll answer some more of your traffic and police questions. It has been a slice. Remember that we are we're doing this most weekdays, but I'm not here next week. If you want to catch up on old episodes, or if you want to make sure that you can drive and listen to what we've got to say without getting a ticket or burning data, know that you can download this as a podcast and listen safely and legally in your motor vehicle through the app of your choice, or subways too, whatever works for you. It's Ask a Traffic Cop podcast. You can get to it by going to TrafficCop.ca or AATC.TrafficCop.ca. It'll take you right there. Anyway, have a wonderful day. Drive safe, drive sober, park legally, and smile because it looks good on you. Here's the original traffic song. We did the rock one yesterday, and I love it, but this is still the original and magical in every way, shape, and form. See ya.
Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely helps the traffic flow. Watch for pedestrians, look out for bikes, and don't drive like a jerk that no one likes. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely is the way to go. Put down your cell phone, nobody needs you to text and drive on the DVP. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Stop at stop signs, look both ways, then go. Seatbelt, save your life indeed. And watch your driving, don't speed. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely is the way to go. Don't drink and drive or smoke some weed, because you might go to jail and not get freed. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely helps the traffic flow.
Okay, I had to come back because Hope had a great joke, and it's how to, well, you read it. It's been there for like a minute. Where does a cow take out their date to? The movies. That's fantastic. But I also need to talk about this one. Can I legally have my toddler ride in the front seat of a vehicle with no front airbag? Every place is different, but in Ontario, again, backseat best, and a toddler is going to require an appropriate child safety restraint for the size and weight of the child. To get information on that, go to TrafficCop.ca, scroll to the bottom, and you will find links, important links, and they have information about all the requirements as your child goes through the different stages, right up until when they don't legally require it. But, you know, car seats, use them for the entire length. Don't be in a rush to get rid of them. But yes, you could be in the front seat with a toddler who is appropriately strapped in a approved and appropriate child safety restraint. It's not the best thing, but if you've got no other options, that's what you use. And if you want to skip right to the website that I would suggest you check up and read on, you can go to CPSAC.org for all the info. Have a wonderful day. See ya.